The light bulb lie. Warning: this product contains a chemical known to the state of California to cause cancer. Warning: this product contains a chemical known to the state of California to cause birth defects or other reproductive harm. Wow, sounds like a nasty, dangerous product, right? It is. The product is mercury, and it can be toxic, which is why California wanted those two warnings posted on cans of tuna. But if mercury is so very dangerous, then why would Congress require that mercury-filled light bulbs be used in our homes, offices, hospitals, and churches starting in 2012? Compact fluorescent light bulbs, CFLs, contain an average of 4 milligrams of mercury each, far more than the 0.12 milligrams contained in a can of light tuna. It gets worse. The light bulbs these self-serving politicians decreed must be used in your home in order to save the environment are so poisonous that the Environmental Protection Agency actually created cleanup procedures to be followed whenever a CFL is broken. Here are just a few of the highlights. Before cleanup, air out the room. Have people and pets leave the room, and don't let anyone walk through the breakage area on their way out. Open a window and leave the room for 15 minutes or more. Shut off the central forced air heating, air conditioning system if you have one. Cleanup steps for carpeting or rug. Carefully pick up glass fragments and place them in a glass jar with a metal lid, such as a canning jar, or in a sealed plastic bag. Use sticky tape, such as duct tape, to pick up any remaining small glass fragments and powder. If vacuuming is needed, after all visible materials are removed, vacuum the area where the light bulb was broken. Remove the vacuum bag, or empty and wipe the canister, and put the bag or the vacuum debris in a sealed plastic bag. Clean up steps for clothing, bedding, and other soft materials. If clothing or bedding materials come in direct contact with broken glass or mercury-containing powder from inside the bulb that may stick to the fabric, the clothing or bedding should be thrown away. Do not wash such clothing or bedding because mercury fragments in the clothing may contaminate the machine and or pollute sewage. Disposal of cleanup materials. Immediately place all cleanup materials outdoors in a trash container or protected area for next normal trash pickup. Check with your local or state government about disposal requirements in your specific area. Some states do not allow such trash disposal. Instead, they require that broken and unbroken mercury-containing bulbs be taken to a local recycling center. One woman who had the misfortune of breaking a compact fluorescent light bulb in her home was told by her State Department of Environmental Protection that the spilled mercury levels were 6 times higher than the state's safe level, and therefore a cleanup performed by a professional hazardous material team should be considered, at a cost of several $1,000s. Well, at least we know how many agencies it will take to change a CFL. 2. The local Department of Environmental Protection and the local Hazardous Material Disposal Unit. If you bury your head in the sand and believe that things will just get better on their own, that one day you'll wake up and government will have decided to simply leave you alone, then you deserve to see your children wearing the chains of government servitude. Each and every feel-good environmental policy has a price attached to it. Politicians and extremist environmentalists never talk about the cost of carbon credits or CFLs or cap-and-trade programs, but not talking about it doesn't make the cost any less real. For example, in his latest book, Professor Thomas Sowell talks about how homes were far more expensive in cities and towns that adopted environmental smart growth and open space policies. Why? Supply and demand. By imposing an artificial restriction on developable land, the cost of buildable land rose. It's another example of the difference between feeling and thinking. Open space feels good. But once you think about it, you realize there's a substantial hidden cost. Climate change has all the components needed to be an issue used to reshape America. Massive support from the younger generation, a feel-good quality to it that people feel guilty for opposing, ties to the most important, most influential global corporations and leaders, ties to the world's energy supply, and most importantly, trillions of dollars at stake. How many people did Michael Moore speak for when he said that Obama has, quote, the massive will of the American people behind him, and had been granted, still quoting, permission by us to do what he sees fit, end quote. That is simply not the way our republic works. A person who does what he sees fit is not a president. He's a dictator. We cannot allow the Michael Moores of the world to speak for us. Isn't it amazing that the law does not require one human being to save another human being from injury or death? If you see a stranger or even a relative drowning in a pool, the law doesn't impose any obligation on you to save them, even if you could do so without risk to yourself. Yet the same legal system requires you, under threat of penalty, to recycle, to avoid letting your car idle, and to put CFL bulbs with poisonous mercury into your homes, all to save the environment. Common sense tells us that any legal system based on such grotesquely misplaced priorities is one that cannot endure for long. The endless laws, rules, and regulations, 51,000 new ones have been added since 1995, already on the books, along with the ones that are still coming, like cap and trade, are not really about breaking your bad habits, but about breaking your spirit. They're about sending you the message that you are no more important or significant than the spotted owl or salt marsh harvest mouse. These laws are a stark reminder that your significance as an individual, even as a human being, depends on the recognition you are granted by the state. We are all being trained that we are simply a small part of a much larger community made up of humankind, along with trees, plants, and animals, and that we are all equal. But to do that, progressives have to make you forget that your rights were endowed to you directly by your Creator, something they can best make happen by turning us all into what progressive H.G. Wells called, quote, enlightened Nazis, end quote. People who look to the state for direction in every aspect of our lives, but without the violence that accompanied the Nazi movement. But there is good news. Those who are using the environment as a red herring are easy to identify. As I said earlier, people who know they're right about an issue will never back away from a debate. But that's exactly what supporters of new global warming taxes and schemes do. Sure, they write books or produce documentaries, but for an issue that could literally redefine the country, if not the world, don't we demand more than just hearing the experts all agree? After all, the experts all once agreed that America would never be threatened by another depression.